with the due permission of Parama Pujya Shri 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 Nirbhayananda Saraswati-Swami ji, I wish to start this program. What you think is what you become. What you feel is what you attract. And what you imagine is what you create. A very good evening to all the participants from India and also all the participants who have shown interest in participation of today's event from various parts of the world like Nigeria, Korea, Saudi Arabia, United Kingdom, China, Malaysia, Pakistan, Iraq, Philippines, and many more countries who have joined us today for the one-day national level webinar on the topic Uninfluenced Mind, a Glorious Life. Uninfluenced mind will definitely lead us to a glorious life, but to have a mind with no influence or to have an uninfluenced mind is a mission impossible task to a large number of people. To help us to have a glorious life and to help us master our mind and to enlighten us, we have with us today a Guru, a Swamiji, and a torch bearer towards enlightenment, after listening to whom people have transformed and changed the way they look at the things and have been highly motivated, out of which I am also one. I definitely believe each and every one of you are eagerly waiting. So now I would like to request Mr. Girish, HOD of Department of Business Administration, for the welcome address and to introduce our amazing resource person of the day. Over to you, Girish sir.
Om Guruve Sarvalokhanam Vishate Bhavarodhinam Nidaye Sarva Vichyanam Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Shankaram Shankaracharyo Keshavo Bhatarayanaha Sutra Bhashya Kritam Vande Bhagavantah Punah Punaha. My pranamas to all my gurus. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Om yatagner swahira shakti Ramakrishna stita hiya sarva vidya swarupantam sharadam pranamamyaham. Om namasti yati rajaya Vivekananda sunave Satchit sukha swarupaya swamine tapaharine. ದಿವ್ಯತ್ರಯರಿಗೆ ಶಿರಶಾಷ್ಟಾಂಗ ಪ್ರಣಾಮಗಳನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಶ್ರೀ 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 ನಿರ್ಭಯಾನಂದ ಸರಸ್ವತಿ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಗಳವರ ಪಾದ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶಿರಶಾಷ್ಟಾಂಗ ಪ್ರಣಾಮಗಳನ್ನ ಅರ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಶೈನಿಂಗ್ ಸನ್ ಬೈ ಎ ಗ್ಲೋ ವಾರ್ಮ್. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಓಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್. Being a glow worm, I try to introduce Swamiji with few words. For the benefit of the viewers from outside Karnataka, I would like to introduce Swamiji both in Kannada as well as in English. ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರು ನರೇಂದ್ರರಾಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ಕಲ್ಕತ್ತಾದ ರಸ್ತೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರ ತಂದೆ ಜೊತೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ಸಾರಟೂನಲ್ಲಿ ತಂದೆಯವರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಯನ್ನ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ತಾನು ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಬಯಸ್ತೀಯಾ ಅಂತ. ಆಗ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾನು ಸಾರೋಟಿನ ಸಾರಥಿಯಾಗ ಬಯಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಬಹುಶಃ ತಥಾಸ್ತು ದೇವತೆಗಳ ಒಂದು ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದವೋ ಏನೋ, ಮುಂದೆ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರು ಪಾಶ್ಚಿಮಾತ್ಯ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತದ ಧರ್ಮ ದೇವತೆಯ ರಥವನ್ನ ಯಶಸ್ಸಿನಿಂದ ಮುನ್ನಡೆಸಿ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠ ಸಾರಥಿಯಾಗಿ ನಿಲ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮ ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನದ ಮಾರನೇ ದಿನ ನಿಯತಕಾಲಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಯತಕಾಲಿಕೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ. ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಬೆಂಕಿ ಉಡಿಗೆಯುಟ್ಟ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಕಾಣ್ಗಳ ಕಾಂತಿಯ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಉಂಡೆ ಒಂದು ಅಮೆರಿಕಾದ ನೆಲದ ಮೇಲೆ ಕಾಲಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಬಹುಶಃ ಆ ಕಾಲಘಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತದ ಸನಾತನ ಧರ್ಮ ನಶಿಸ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತೋ ಏನೋ. ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರ ಆ ಚೈತ್ರ ಯಾತ್ರೆಯಿಂದ ಸನಾತನ ಧರ್ಮ ವಿಜೃಂಭಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಆಯಿತು. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ಶತಮಾನಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಸನಾತನ ಧರ್ಮ ದಿನೇ ದಿನೇ ತನ್ನ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಅವಸಾನದ ನಂತರ ದಿನೇ ದಿನೇ ಅದರ ಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನ ಕ್ಷೀಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಬಂತು. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ವಿವಿಧ ಅವತಾರಗಳ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಬಂದು ಸನಾತನ ಧರ್ಮದ ಶಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂತಹ ಒಬ್ಬ ಅಭಿನವ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಇರೋದು ಬಹುಶಃ ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪುಣ್ಯ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿನವ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರು ಬಹುಶಃ ವಿಶ್ವಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು. ಇವರನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಪದಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಿಚಯಿಸೋದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಕಷ್ಟ ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾದಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸ. ಕಷ್ಟ ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾದ್ರೂ ಸಹ ಈ ನಮ್ಮ ನೇರ ಪ್ರಸಾರ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ವೀಕ್ಷಕರಿಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಸಣ್ಣದಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರನ್ನ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. 1893ರ ಆ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮ ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನದ ನಂತರ 125 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ನಂತರ ಅದರ ಸವಿ ನೆನಪಿಗಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಚಿಕಾಗೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರ ಸವಿ ನೆನಪಿಗಾಗಿ ಆ ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಭಾರತದ ಧರ್ಮದ ಪ್ರತಿನಿಧಿಯಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಭಾಷಣವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರನ್ನ ಅಭಿನವ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಅಂತ ಪದವನ್ನು ಬಳಸಿದೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ 4ನೇ ವಿಶ್ವ ಸರ್ವಧರ್ಮ ಸಮ್ಮೇಳನ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಪೇನಿನ ಬಾರ್ಸಿಲೋನಾದಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತದ ಶೈಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ಪದ್ಧತಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಓತಪ್ರೋತವಾಗಿ ತಮ್ಮ ವಿಚಾರ ಲಹರಿಯನ್ನ ಹರಿಸಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ವಿವಿಧ ಧರ್ಮ ಗುರುಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಸಂವಾದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದ ಪ್ರೌಢಿಮೆ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ವಿಶ್ವ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರು ಅವತ್ತು ಇಡೀ ಭಾರತವನ್ನ ಪ್ರವಾಸ ಕೈಗೊಂಡ್ರು. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಸಹ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಪ್ರವಾಸವನ್ನ ಕೈಗೊಂಡು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಹಿಂದುಳಿದ ಭಾಗಗಳಾದಂತಹ ಉತ್ತರ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಬಿಜಾಪುರ ಹಾಗೂ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತಲಿನ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಯನ್ನ ಮನಗೊಂಡು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರ ಸಂದೇಶಗಳನ್ನ ಸಾರುವಂತಹ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ಹಾಗೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಕೆಳಸ್ತರದ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಜನೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಶಾಲೆಯನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ತಾವೂ ಸಹ ನೆಲೆಸಿ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಜನೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾದಾನದ ಪ್ರತೀಕವಾಗಿ ನಿಲ್ಲುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಪ್ರೇಮ ಎಂತದ್ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾರ್ಗಿಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹುತಾತ್ಮರಾದಂತಹ ಯೋಧರ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಉಚಿತವಾದ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ನೀಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ವರ್ಷದ ಹಲವು ತಿಂಗಳ ಕಾಲ ವಿದೇಶಿ ಪ್ರವಾಸದಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಕ ಸಂದೇಶವನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಾರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಅದು ಸಹ ತಪ್ಪಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಒಬ್ಬ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನದ ಸ್ನಾತಕೋತ್ತರ ಪದವೀಧರರಾಗಿ ವಿಶ್ವದ ಹಲವು ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಿತ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಭಾಷಣಗಳನ್ನು ನೀಡಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಕೇವಲ ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಕಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನ ತಾವು ಸೀಮಿತಗೊಳಿಸದೆ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನದ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನು ತಾವು ತೊಡಗಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಶ್ಲಾಘನೀಯವಾದಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರವೇ ಸರಿ. ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರ ವೇದಾಂತ ತತ್ವಗಳ ಸಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಪ್ರಮುಖ ಪಾತ್ರವನ್ನ ವಹಿಸತಕ್ಕಂತಹ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಸುದೈವವೇ ಸರಿ. An uninfluenced mind, a glory to life. ಬಹುಶಃ ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಬಾರಿಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಅಂತ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಮಾತಿನಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ನಮ್ಮ ಲೈಫ್ ಗ್ಲೋರಿ ಆಗೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಸಂದೇಹ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನನ್ನ ಭಾವನೆ. ಈ ಸಣ್ಣ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಚಯವನ್ನು ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ನಾನು ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ the people who are participated from outside state or outside India, I would like to introduce Swamiji in English in few words. I think we are so lucky to have a great mentor, guide, philosopher, an academician, a spiritual master, a motivator, all the sense, a true guru who is in the midst of us. Parama Pujya Sri Nirbhayananda Saraswati Maharaj Ji is a force and inspiration behind Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement in northern part of Karnataka, and also he is providing free education for the children of Kargil martyrs. He is a scholar. His excellence in deep insight into the command a wide range of things in various fields, actually helping us to spread the Vedanta philosophy to the world. Swamiji from then onwards has been vigorously spreading the message of Swami Vivekananda through the lecture series under Bhavya Jivana Parichaya. Universal Peace Federation, an organization in consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of United Nations, has conferred the Swamiji Ambassador of Peace. In July 2007, he was in Seoul and acted as a religious advisor from Hinduism for inter-religious cultural festival. traveling along the length and breadth of the state and the country, as well as he has addressed several seminars for the students at the college and university level, in addition to teachers, parents, managerial staff, and the labors of several companies. Swamiji is the leading force behind ashramas in Dharwad, Hubli, Raichur, Gulbarga, Bidar, Gadag, Shumaga, Chikmagalur, and other parts of Karnataka. Swamiji is the chief editor of bi-monthly magazines in Kannada called Vivekananda. A graduate in science, has extensively traveled and lectured universities of Stanford, Demort, in addition to giving public talks at cities like Washington, D.C., Portland, Dallas, Seattle, etc. And he is also guest speaker at FM radio, and he is the first person to give spiritual speeches in BBC. He was a speaker at 125th anniversary of the great Swami Vivekananda's Chicago address, recently held under the auspices of Chicago University. He has also participated in 4th Parliament of Religious held at Barcelona in Spain, and also participated in conversations with the various Dharma gurus who have participated in 4th Religious Parliament. I welcome you, Swamiji, for this great auspicious occasion to enlighten us through your motivational words. And I also welcome our CEO, Sri Kirtan Kumar, Coordinator IQAC, Sri Shukumar Ganachari, Senior Professor N.B. Shigalli sir, and Professor Somshekar and Professor Kaushik, and thousands of viewers who are there on live in YouTube. Thank you, Swamiji. Over to you, Swamiji.
Jananim Sharadam Devin Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayoshritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Krupa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Vireshwarananda Dayamrutabhim Shri Ranganathancha Vijnana Bhanum Chidananda Rupa Shri Purushottamariyam Dhyayan Hridisthan Krutinam Yavaini. Honorable Shri Kirtan Kumar, CEO of this one of the most reputed institutions functioning in the state of Karnataka, with a network of various organs catering to the academic, the cultural, and the spiritual needs of the growing generation, the modern generation, the younger generation. Shri Girish, the instrument behind this happening, the person responsible for me today to appear before you all and have an opportunity to share a few of my thoughts with the most deserving segment of the academic sections of the world, comprising the students of all our various institutions and various other professors, honorable professors whose names I don't remember, but whom I respect and revere very much, and all my student brother. No country in this world has devoted so much of time to understand the implications, the potentialities, and the possibilities of human species as India. While saying about India's concern for the discovery of the human energy, human power, Vivekananda makes a very valid, very meaningful and relevant statement. I quote, "The best and the most brilliant brains of India retired to forest and took themselves to the study of man from all possible angles, to the exclusion of all other pursuits. And this brilliant research work was carried on for 50 long centuries. The result is the invention of the Vedas and the Vedanta, which are today the basis for Indian culture and Indian philosophy of life." I unquote. Most beautiful insight that the great Vivekananda gives about what India has done for the humanity. So many things it has done. It's unfortunate present day Indian history does not give even a glimpse of what really India has done. It's unfortunate, most unfortunate. I can understand this complacency on the part of the administrative circles that they never bothered to enlighten our student community about the truth about their own country. During the British era, British need not be interested in enlightening the Indian student community about what truly they represent, what background they have. After all, England wants, or the British people during those times wanted Indians to be as much humiliated, as much lacking in self-confidence, as much lacking in their dashing nature as possible, so that the British would have a very free reign. The most unfortunate part is that even after attaining independence, even after grabbing all power into our own hands, the government that ruled, the powers that were, never bothered to change the tone and tenor of the British and continued to keep Indian student community in dark about what truly India has meant. India has meant for the world at large and for its own self. But if you look into works like Swami Vivekananda and look into the observations of the Western genius like Einstein, Schopenhauer, one of the greatest philosophers from Germany, Schrödinger, father of quantum physics, Robert Oppenheimer, father of atom bomb, Niels Bohr, father of atomic structure, Nikola Tesla, the inventor of our tube light, Hiram Maxim, the inventor of machine gun. So many host of such people, T.S. Eliot, Bernard Shaw, host of such people, they have showered their appreciation upon India. Remember, the people whom I quoted just now, most of them are scientists. They are Nobel laureates. T.S. Eliot is a Nobel laureate, a reputed professor in Harvard University. He was given Nobel Prize for his most monumental work, The Wasteland, a milestone in the literature of English. Bernard Shaw, I need not say anything about that. Several such people, they have gone to the extent of saying, for example, Voltaire says, Pythagoras went to India to learn mathematics. Voltaire says this, and this has been corroborated. This has been confirmed by so many other people. And John Wheeler, the great scientist who succeeded Einstein in Princeton University, the man that sat in the chair of Einstein, in the chair where Einstein used to sit in Princeton University in the suburbs of New York, says it is so curious that father of atom bomb, Robert Oppenheimer, father of quantum physics, Erwin Schrödinger, father of modern chemistry, Niels Bohr, were all Upanishad scholars. And he goes to the extent of saying that it seems Indian seers know all science. Indian seers know all science. If you can simply translate into our language what they have in their own, we would have answers for so many of our questions in modern physics. you will never find in any of the history textbooks that are today prescribed for Indian students. Sometimes, I'm sorry to say, I feel whether there is any deliberate concerted exercise on the part of the people that ruled India that moral boosters should never be provided to the growing student community in India. Is there any such conspiracy at all? Is there any such vested interest at all? Whatever it is. But to make up all this loss, there is one marvelous alternative. That is, one should study Vivekananda. Vivekananda is not an Indian, not merely an Indian. He is not merely a Hindu. In fact, Western newspapers, American newspapers, how many times have they exclaimed, is he a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Mohammedan or a Christian? Is he a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Mohammedan or a Christian? Because he would appear as though he is a full-fledged Christian. He would appear as though he is a full-fledged Buddhist, full-fledged Mohammedan, full-fledged Hindu. This is exactly what Indian philosophy expects from every human being. That is, you be a man of universality. The birth is not in your hand. You may be born anywhere. But to develop yourself into a man of universal dimensions, universal relevance is entirely in your own hand. And therefore, right from the first verse in the Rig Veda, Agnime ile purohitam yajnasya deva mritvijam hota aram ratnadhatamam. This is the first verse in the earliest of human compositions, not Indian compositions. The ever earliest composition of a man, ever earliest holy utterance that has escaped the lips of a man is the verse that just now I uttered before you all. Right from that verse up to the last line in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, who lived up to 120 years ago, you will never find anything that is sectarian. You will never find anything that is dogmatic. In fact, one lady professor from Islamic University of Indonesia, which is in Kuala Lumpur, asked me in 2007 when I was in Seoul, in connection with representing Hinduism and in connection with teaching the athletes about the Hindu way of meditation. She asked me a question, sir, who is the founder of your religion? Who is the founder of Hinduism? Of course, in a curiosity to know, not in any other sense. Very, very great lady, very nice lady, so friendly, so affable, very maternal in her approach and sentiments and all that. We were so close to each other. I said, madam, there is no founder for Hinduism. You know why? Have you any founder for physics? Have you any founder for mathematics? No one. Hinduism, we call it for conventional purposes as Hinduism. Strictly speaking, it's a science of human development. It's a science of human evolution. It's a science of human excellence. It's a science of human growth. Glance through the whole of the so-called Hindu scriptures. We don't call it as Hindu scriptures even. We call it as Vedanta. Glance through the whole of Vedanta, right from the first page up to the last page. You see, to your own surprise, that everywhere man is treated as man only. Man is addressed as man only. Not cut into an Indian or an Asian, a Hindu, never of that sort. So this is so universal. It is universal and it is so rational because it is a science. A science has to be rational. That is, it must be applicable in all places and during all times. It should not be confined to any one time, any one space. If any observation, if any one truth is beyond all space and all time, then we say it is universal. And it is always open for your questioning. Right from the first sentence up to the last sentence in the philosophy of India, everything is open for investigation, for questioning, for inquiry. At least several times, half a dozen times, you will see the seer of Vedanta, emphasizing on being questioned by the followers. Whenever a guru is teaching something to the disciples, a teacher is teaching something to all through Upanishads, we see hundreds of teachers teaching thousands of topics to thousands of students. This tradition later was carried on when India started full-fledged universities in Takshashila, in Nalanda, and all those places. Alexander had visited Takshashila University, was so much dumbstruck at the marvelous achievement and progress that Takshashila University was making at that time. Chanakya in India was a professor there. Panini, the greatest grammarian according to A.L. Bhashyam of Oxford University, worked there as professor. We had so many such international level professors in Takshashila University at that time. Charaka, Sushruta, so all such people. In fact, they were the students of the professors that worked in Takshashila University. Alexander was so much dumbstruck, was so much inspired that a replication of that should take place in the Greece. Later, Alexander thought Greece would not be the right place for any such thing to happen. And therefore, he selected one place in Egypt. And one university was started to commemorate Alexander there. The whole city, the whole university campus came to be known as Alexandria, the city of Alexandria. Because remember, the city grew around that university. There was nothing before that university was started. University was started, later it grew. So what I mean is, we see hundreds and hundreds of professors teaching students. When addressing students, they always had dwelt upon universal things. And the center of all that discussion was human being. Every subject was discussed elaborately in all details. There was a free scope for questioning the teacher. Nothing was expected to be accepted. No teacher expected anything. No teacher expected any student to accept anything that flows from him. Rather, Parikṣalokam karmachatam brahmano nirvedamaya nasti krutena. We come across this beautiful sentiment in Mundukopanishad, which is in Sanskrit. You know what is that? Oh, the seeker of infinite knowledge. Brahmana means the one who seeks infinite knowledge. The one who is interested in seeking the infinity of the knowledge, not interested in merely some departmentalization of some knowledge or some branch of knowledge. Parikṣalokam, O Brahmana, test, challenge, inquire into, question everything, every phenomenon that you see every day around, everything that you come across. Never compromise with any sort of the apparent aspect of any phenomenon. Something is happening and you jump to some conclusion. Never. Dig into the deepest point of that. One striking feature in Indian academic culture is that we are never interested in superficial phenomena. We are interested in knowing the deepest root, the deepest cause, the cause of all causes behind this phenomenon. We always go to the cause and there we deal with the matter. We never bother about the effect. Once something is happening and that is the effect. What is the reason for that? This is the reason. Even there we are not started. If this is the reason for that, what is the cause for this even? So the process goes on, and unless and until we arrive at the deepest point beyond which there is no cause at all, we are not satisfied. This is a striking phenomenon in all the Indian scriptures. And remember, Indian philosophy, Indian scripture, Indian religion is not at all something totally diverse from everyday life. The whole of Indian philosophy is the advanced theory of evolution put forth by Darwin. Indian philosophy is the advanced stages. Darwin has dealt with the theory of evolution or philosophy of evolution from amoeba up to human level. In the post-human level, Darwin has done nothing. Thomas Huxley, the associate of Darwin, has done nothing. Post-human evolution has not been dealt with by any of these people. Ages ago, at least 1,000 years before Buddha, India has dealt with post-human evolution also. And that we call as Raja Yoga, the science of human mind, human psyche, the science of human psyche or human mind. Why it is called as human mind? Because in the post-human evolution, evolution is not organic. It is not in terms of the changes that takes place. At the body level, that evolution will take place. Once you reach the human level, body will not change. The least evolved man and the most evolved man will not differ as far as body is concerned. The unicellular organism that we call as amoeba and the multicellular organism that we call as ant, snake, or whatever it is, bodily, physiologically, there is an ocean of change because there is evolution, change in evolution. There is a lift in evolution. Higher scales of evolution are taking place at snake level or at dog level or at cow level or at whatever level. From unicellular organism up to the advanced species, you will see marked changes taking place at every graduation of the scale of evolution. But once you reach the human stage, the worst criminal in the world and the greatest saint, the worst Veerappan, say for example, people that are in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, we are quite familiar with that notorious criminal Veerappan, who was a headache for the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu for almost 20 long years. This Veerappan and Buddha, physically they appear one and the same. There is no physiological difference between a Veerappan and a Vivekananda. But where is the difference? There is an infinite difference in the psyche. One is negative infinity and the other one is the positive infinity. So at a human level, always the evolution is taking place at the level of psyche, at the level of mind. And therefore, to deal with the human evolution, we have dealt with the mind of man, and that constitutes today what is called as one of the greatest sciences India has produced, Raja Yoga, that is the science of powers of man, the science of powers of human mind. How many powers, how many inexhaustible powers, what sort of powers human mind has got? Every human mind has got the ability to control the whole of the external nature and also to control the whole of the internal nature. Internal nature of man can be controlled. So your feelings, your emotions, and so many mischiefs of the mind, so many ways of the mind, so many modifications of the mind. In Hindu philosophy, these vicious modifications of mind are counted as 6. There are 6 most vicious modifications of mind. Them we call as Arishadvarga, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. These are the 6 modifications of the mind that always pull a man down. They create hell out of the human existence. Equally, Amanitvam, Adambhitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantihi, Arjavam, Acharyopasanam, Shaucham, Sthiryam, Atma Vinigraha, Ahimsa, Satya Asteya, Brahmacharya, Asangraha, and Yama, Yama, like that. We have so many virtues, the positive modifications, the virtuous modifications of human mind, that also we have got. They are not called as Arishadvargas, they are called as virtues, Sadgunas. So these modifications always there in the mind, and you must have an ability to turn your mind into anything that you want. The greatest memory power is there in the mind, and the ability to become the richest man in the world, that ability is there in your own mind. The ability to become a Nobel laureate, a person who is the recipient of 2 Nobel Prizes like an Einstein or a Madame Curie, that is in your own mind. The ability to become the greatest politician, that is in your own mind. Ability to become the greatest saint, that is in your own mind. And the ability to become the opposite of all these things, they are also in your own mind. It is up to the man to make use of the mind in the way that he wants. But power is not lacking. This is one thing that every student must always be aware of. Students all over the world, not only Indian students, student community all over the world must always be aware of the fact you can become anything and everything. You know what is sin according to Indian philosophy of life, according to Indian religions? The sin is when you say I cannot. You will be a sinner whenever you say I cannot. Telling a lie is one way of committing a sin. Stealing something from someone is one form of committing a sin. But in Indian philosophy, the greatest sin is that whenever you say, I cannot, I shall not, I cannot, Vivekananda emphasizes on this point. Never say no, never say I cannot, because that is the greatest condemnation of the truth of all truths. If you say I cannot, that is the worst condemnation of the truth of all truths, because you are infinite. Never say no, you are infinite. You can do anything and everything. Never say I cannot. It is the greatest heresy to think so. If there is any sin in this world, this is the only sin, to think that you are weak or others are weak. How much of power is there inside the mind of a man? Remember, I am using the word man. I am not saying how much of power is there inside the mind of a sannyasi. How much power is there in the mind of a great politician, a saint, a Hindu, an Indian. I am not using any such terminologies. I am using the term man. I am a man. Any human being, masculine human being anywhere in this world is a man. So Indian philosophy will say, no sciences, no books, no scriptures can ever imagine the glory of the self that appears as man. There is what is called a self. It is that self that is taking all these forms. This is proved by Darwin. This is proved by every philosopher. This is proved by every science of cosmology. This is proved by every science of Genesis. This is proved by every medical science. And today's modern physics, quantum physics, is saying there is nothing like matter. What is there is only consciousness. This is the latest discovery that we can come across in quantum physics. There is no matter. Everything is living. Everything has got life. Long ago, in the days of Rig Veda itself, Indians declared, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. And what is that Brahman? I am Atma Brahman, Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam is consciousness. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Everything is consciousness. That is the latest of scientific discovery in quantum physics that we see. But this is the earliest of the discovery in Indian context. How much advanced the Indians were. Because they believed in the fact that there is nothing that is impossible for man. We came out with a perfect, definite declaration about the potentiality of a man. In no uncertain terms we declared, no sciences. Remember, no sciences. Nothing, no science in the scientific world. No sciences. No scripture. Scripture means religious scripture like the Vedas, the Tripitakas, the Ahura Mazda, the Bible, the Quran, etc. We call as scriptures normally, the religious texts. No sciences, no books, no scriptures. They cannot even imagine. They cannot explain. I am not saying they cannot explain. They cannot imagine the glory of the consciousness that is everywhere pervaded. It is this consciousness that is appearing as a tree. It is this consciousness that is appearing as wall. Various forms it is assuming. But when it assumes the human form, when this universal material or the building block of the whole universe, the building material of the whole universe, which earlier we used to call as electrons, protons, neutrons, later we started calling electromagnetic field, later we started calling quantum field, etc., etc. This all pervading consciousness, which is universal, which is everywhere, omnipresent, it is that has assumed so many forms, the form of an utensil, the form of a cup, the form of a table, the form of a wall, etc. It is that has assumed all these forms. But when it assumes the human form, it comes to have so much of energy, so much of power, no science, no books, no scriptures can ever imagine. When it assumes the human form, remember, every human form is what you call in conventional sense, God in disguise. He is God in disguise. The potential God. Vivekananda goes further to say, each human soul is potentially divine. Divine means, remember, divine means your existence Your knowledge and your bliss is never limited. This is divinity. People die one day, but a divine personality will not die. Buddha wanted to find out a solution for the death. He wanted to find out a solution for the sickness of a man. He wanted to find out the solution for the old age. Later, he came out with a solution. He did succeed in coming out with a solution. But what was the solution? The solution was not that the human body would remain there eternally, unaffected. That is not the solution. That is not the solution. The solution is in the knowledge. The solution is in the awareness, the pakka, the deep knowledge that what you call as body has nothing to do with you, the real you. I have worn a shirt here. I have worn a clothing here, a wrapper, a textile wrapper. A clothing is here. A shirt is here. Soon after I get up tomorrow in the morning, I change this and wear a new one. Like that, you wear your body once in 100 years or once in 8 years or so. Nobody is regretting just because he is removing this attire, this dress, and putting upon himself some other dress. Is there anything that we should bother about that? Is there anything to be bothered at all? It is like that. You will remain, but only you are going to cast off your body whenever it becomes a worn out entity. The time comes when it becomes worn out, incapable of being used any further. Then you throw away that body just as you throw away your worn out garment, your old dress, and wear a new one. You throw out your garment. This is the solution Buddha brought for the solace, for the relief of the whole world. His solution did not consist in retaining the body forever. That is impossible. Because creation is combination and death is dissolution. Death means the dissolution of the things that were once combined. At the time of your birth, several elements were combined. You were born. Death means they go into the process of dissociation. Anything that is associated has to have the phase of dissociation one day, and therefore it is not at all a topic. It is not at all a matter to bother about at all. This is the solution ultimately Buddha came to have. So like that, what we mean here is we are all potentially divine. Each person is potentially divine, and the goal is to manifest this divinity. How to manifest? Always experience your eternal existence. Are you in a position to experience your eternal existence? You can experience your eternal existence. Vivekananda used to say, I may throw away my body as though I throw away a worn out garment, but I shall not cease to exist. I continue to live and I continue to inspire men everywhere. I shall not cease to exist. I throw away this body, but I shall not cease to exist. Vivekananda could do. I can do if I want. You can do if you want. Any person can do, irrespective of the caste, community, the religion. As I said, every discovery that took place on the soil of India is for the man as a whole. Because we developed the science of spirituality. And there were some rituals connected around that, and that ritual came to be called as religion. But for us, religion is just a ritual. But the true term, the perfect term for us, which is the counterpart for the term religion that is used elsewhere outside India, is spirituality. That is spirituality. So we need not cease to exist. You can continue to exist. Your existence can be there. That means to say, eternal existence or infinite existence is your birthright, and it is so natural to you. No one needs to supply it to you. No question of getting influenced by anyone. It is self-evident. It is quite natural, so obvious. It is one with your own existence. The human existence and eternal existence, they go together. This is India's greatest discovery, one of the greatest discoveries. This is not that much important. What is very important is you have infinite knowledge. This is very important. Your knowledge is infinite. If you want, within no time, you can become the omniscient. Vivekananda had just then returned from America. It was in 1897 or so. There were so many brother sannyasis who were the young disciples of Sri Ramakrishna during Ramakrishna's lifetime. After Sri Ramakrishna passed away in 1886, they all embraced sannyas on the day which is today considered as the eve of Christmas. And 25th December, we all know is Christmas. 24th December, they all joined together and took the vows of sannyas upon them. They had one, what is called as dhuni, burning fire. It is December 24th. So much chill around in an open field before a huge temple in West Bengal. They all sat together, wanted to go into some meditative moods. Also about 12 people, about 12 disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. They all sat together. Each one was an adept by that time in meditation. Sri Ramakrishna had trained them up in such a way. Within no time, they went into deep meditations. Around 2 o'clock in the midnight, they all woke up from their meditation. Somehow, being prompted by some unknown instinct, Narendranath, the future Vivekananda, started expounding upon the power of renunciation, the spirit of renunciation as exhibited by Jesus Christ. He went on expounding in burning terms about the power of renunciation that Jesus had. And at that very moment, after the exposition was over, they all unknowingly, as though they were being driven by some force unseen, unknown, immediately they all made up their mind. They too should accept sannyas. They must take the vows of sannyas that very moment and become sannyasis. They all worked together, all the 12 disciples, young disciples. Nobody was more than 23 or 24 at that time. They were all young boys, university students. Narendranath had completed his degree and was pursuing his law. Swami Sharadananda was pursuing his MBBS. So, like that, some of them were degree students, and some of them had just then completed their degree and pursuing post-graduation, something of that sort. All suddenly took the vow that they should become sannyasis. Later they found it was the Christmas Eve. Later they found, and there were 12 disciples of Sri Ramakrishna that had assembled on that occasion. Jesus Christ also has 12 sannyasi disciples. Though 16 disciples are there for Ramakrishna, the sannyasi disciples of Sri Ramakrishna are 16 in number. But during that day, the present, how many were present? Only 12 were present. What a coincidence. It's all God's wish. Ramakrishna is so universal. As I told about Vivekananda, the American newspapers, they were in a fix. They were perplexed as to what really he was. What he was it? When Vivekananda delivered a talk on Christianity, on Jesus Christ in America, newspapers wrote, no Christian professor, no Christian religious man, father, padre, in Kannada we call, padre, in Spanish they call. No Christian professor, no Christian preacher had expounded in such burning terminology the glory of Jesus Christ as Vivekananda did. Because in him, there was a Buddha, there was a Shiva, there was a Christ, there was the total infinite spiritual excellence encapsulated into one human being, just as the case was with his own Guru, Sri Ramakrishna. So, Vivekananda returned from America in 1897. So many sannyasis, so many disciples of Ramakrishna, all the 16 disciples of Ramakrishna had become sannyasis by then. Being inspired by Vivekananda's personality, several young men also had joined the order as brahmacharis. There will be a probationary period of about 9 years, during which time they'll be wearing white clothes with a tuft on the head. You might have observed all this in any of the Ramakrishna mission centers. They almost were about 50 in number by that time. Vivekananda was very much particular that every sannyasi Ramakrishna order must be an adept with all possible knowledge under the sun. You should not confine yourself only for the studies of the Vedas, he used to say. You must know Vedas, you must know modern science, you must know all other religious scriptures also. You must widen your vision. All of you must be in a position to appreciate the beauty, the truth, the depth of other people also, other scriptures also. There are some good elements in every religion. There are some bad elements in every culture, good elements in every culture. The purpose for which Sri Ramakrishna came is to assimilate all the good elements that are scattered in all aspects of the spiritual glory, assimilate them all and develop into one perfect human excellent order. That is the purpose for which Ramakrishna Mission has been founded. It has come into existence. Their one mantra, always one constant refrain that always echoes in any circles of Ramakrishna order is perfect. Always to seek perfection, pursue perfection, assimilate everything that is good and develop the finest and the most excellent out of this assimilation. So Vivekananda had arranged for some encyclopedia books to be brought to the mutt so that the mutt sannyasis and brahmacharis could go through it and have the first-hand knowledge about everything that is of interest in this human world, in the contemporary world. You know, one encyclopedia will have somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000 pages. 10 volumes, 10 such volumes were there, each of the size of 2,000 or 2,500 volumes. A disciple of Vivekananda, Sharat Chandra, a great Bengali writer, he was a disciple of Vivekananda. He happened to come into Vivekananda's room, looked at all these books, and passed a remark, Swamiji, how voluminous each part is. I think one whole human birth, one whole life will not be sufficient to master even one volume. One volume. When he made a statement of that sort, Vivekananda turned at him with a little bit of anger or of that, something of that mode, a little bit of disagreement with what he had observed. He said, what foolish thing you are talking, what nonsense you are talking. I have mastered all these 10 volumes. The disciple was amazed. You have mastered all these 10 volumes. When from you have been reading that, Swamiji? When from you have been reading? Vivekananda says, for the past 1 month. For the past 1 month, Vivekananda has been reading these encyclopedia that are 10 in number. Each has about 3,000 pages in that. Within 1 month, he has mastered that all. I have mastered them all. Not only Vivekananda said that, he continued to say, take any of the volumes you want and ask me any question about any topic that you want. Now arose a very interesting moment there. The disciple also was equal to the task. After all, he is a disciple of Vivekananda. He was equal to the task. He was equal to the challenge. One after the other, he took all the 10 volumes, randomly opened it, found out what was the topic that particular page was discussing or dealing with, and asked some questions. Vivekananda gave perfect answers. In most of the cases, he produced the answer verbatim. Before he produced any answer, he would say which volume the answer is contained, which page number the answer is there. Most of the cases, he replicated, he produced an answer that was verbatim. Perplexed was the disciple, and with all the curiosity asked, how is it, Swamiji, you have been able to muster so much of a memory power? Vivekananda says, this is the secret of Indian academic culture that was in vogue, that was in practice during Upanishadic times, during Vedic times. This is how a student used to be trained up in the academic pursuits. Today's education system has ruined all your mental powers because there is no stress on brahmacharya at all. A perfect brahmachari will have tremendous memory power. A perfect brahmachari, in the days of yore, the first and the foremost thing that used to be very much emphasized upon for any student and every student was to make himself an adept in that art, in that science of brahmacharya. Tremendous power of concentration. This is called as the photographic memory of Swami Vivekananda. Once Vivekananda casts his glance on a book means, as though a photographer is clicking everything, his mind would grasp everything that is being observed, and there it gets stored up. Anytime that can be taken out. This is how India lived. That is the reason why today India is in a position to give solutions for so many riddles in quantum physics. And the solutions, when did we have? In the days of the Vedas. All these things, what all I have been talking about till now is that, man, do you know who you are? What you are? How many powers are lurking in you? How many powers? Inexhaustible powers, inestimable powers. Every human being has got this. And unfortunately, we know not about that. Our life has been something like a lion living in the midst of the flock of sheep. A cub, a baby lion, a young lion, it is living in the company of a flock of sheep for the past several years. It comes to count itself also as a sheep. It is living like a sheep because it had never any sort of an opportunity to come across any lion and make a comparative study between what it was and what the lion was and how the sheep were. No chance came, no opportunity came. Therefore, the bounden duty of any sound academic system in any country is to give hundreds of opportunities to students to have a comparative study, a comparison between his own self and the self of any great man in this world. If Einstein was so great, why not I? If Vivekananda was so great, why not I? Vivekananda himself, on an occasion, when hundreds of young men were there assembled before him, when he was addressing the mob, you know what did he say? Dear young Indians, my young friends, the blood that is flowing in me is the same blood that is flowing in you also. I worship the same God that you all worship. I eat the same food that you all eat. I drink the same water that you all drink. I have trodden on the same land that you all tread every day. My mother did same thing as your mothers used to do. My father did the same thing as your father. We are all Indians. But there is difference between me and you. The British, who are ruling you for the past 200 years, they are ruling you, but they don't hesitate to wash my feet and drink the water thereof. Vivekananda had several British disciples who used to wash his feet almost on a daily basis, and they would drink that water, the water with which the feet of Vivekananda was washed. Of course, in Eastern countries, in India, there is a custom like this. We call it as Pada Puja, something of that sort. When a great man, a holy man comes, we wash his feet and we drink that water, not only to show honor to him, but also there is a feeling in us that his feet should, the feet or anything that is stuck to his feet, even the dust that is stuck to his feet, when he enters into your being, brings about a magnetic conversion in you, a change in you, a welcome change in you. So that is our feeling. Faith cannot be questioned. So Vivekananda puts this question: what is the difference between me and you, fellow Indians, my younger brothers? There is no difference, but there is a difference. What is the difference? I have fullest faith in my potentiality, in my power, because I studied Upanishads. The day I studied Upanishads, and what is after all Upanishad? It's a science of human excellence. It's a science of human glory. The day I came to know of the truths of the Upanishads, the conviction got firmly rooted in me that I can move the world. I can do anything and everything. That became totally convinced to me that sky is not the limit for my potentiality, my might. This is the basic and the fundamental teaching that is available to every Indian in Upanishadic scriptures, Upanishadic literature during ancient times. But the same teaching, in the same spirit, is abundantly available in the books of Vivekananda, books about Vivekananda, books by Vivekananda, and therefore every young man has to acquaint himself with the spirit and the beauty of the teachings of Vivekananda. Many of you might have heard of the name of Ravi Chandranwar, the famous IPS officer in Karnataka today, who in fact grew up under my own guidance in my ashram in Gadag. He was a coolie boy, so poor that would not find enough food to eat even once in 3 days. Once in 3 days, his belly would not be filled. So much of poverty, eating poverty. Just to eat sumptuously, just to eat sufficiently, he joined one bar and restaurant. Not for the sake of any sort of a salary, but for eating sufficiently. Because when the people that go to normally bar and restaurant, they don't exhaust the plate, they don't empty the plate. They leave a lot of food in the plate itself. So that food would be enough for me to eat. He thought. He joined a bar and restaurant to fill up his belly every day, at least once a day. And after his passing PUC, he came to me and said that he had got a conductor's post in some department, KSRTC department, something of that kind. Therefore, he was seeking my blessings to join as a conductor. I said, you have been following Vivekananda. You have been studying Vivekananda for the past 2 years. Is this what you have learned? I expect you to be the Prime Minister of India. You think you can't? Abraham Lincoln was a person who used to graze cattle. He was a cattle boy. Did he not become President of America? Madame Curie was a dishwasher in some rich man's house. She used to wash the kitchen utensils every morning and every evening. She was a dishwasher. Did she not become a Nobel laureate? Thomas Alva Edison went to school only for 3 months. Became a man responsible for 2,000 inventions. He had more than 2,000 patents. Thomas Alva Edison. Michael Faraday, another great scientist, went to school only for 6 months. Became one of the greatest scientists in the world. Abdul Kalam was a very poor boy, most ordinary boy. Did he not become a scientist? Human history has hundreds and thousands of such examples. They all could reach such heights only because they were hell-bent upon doing so. I told Ravi, I expect you to become Prime Minister of India. Of course, in the present Indian political circumstances, you cannot. I expect you to be Chief Minister of Karnataka. I know you cannot. But can't you become an officer in the IAS? Why don't you pursue IAS? This I can do, Swamiji, he said. He did pursue IAS, missed IAS by some 15 marks or so, but right in the first effort, in the first attempt, could get into Indian Police Service, IPS. Today, he is one of the best IPS officers. A man who had nothing, most impoverished, Kannada medium boy, right from kindergarten to degree. He did his degree in Kannada medium, not even English medium. Today, there is that, what I call that craze of putting children into English medium is so much there. I do not know for what purpose. In fact, in the early stages of education, the boy or girl, children should always study in the mother tongue. Then only they can enjoy that process of education. And unless student enjoys educational process, he cannot pursue deep interest in that. Making him pursue deep interest in the studies is the basic and the fundamental duty of every parent and every teacher. Fortunately for Ravi Chandanwar, he had his education in mother tongue, not only in the initial stages, even up to degree level. And Kannada medium up to degree level never came in the way of his passing IPS right in the first attempt. Hundreds and thousands of students, boys and girls, whose parents are engineers, whose parents are doctors, whose parents are even in IPS and IAS, who have been brought up, who have been nurtured in the English medium background, right from kindergarten up to post-graduation level, they also seek IAS and IPS. They take 5 attempts, but now they don't clear even the preliminary examination, the foremost. But here one Kannada medium boy, he did. Where from he got? Where from the ability came? The ability came from the inspiration that Vivekananda gave. Friends, you need not be influenced by anyone, but you must be inspired. Don't allow Tom, Dick and Harry to influence you. You are next to nobody. You are next to nobody. Don't accept just because Einstein says. Don't accept because Adam Smith says. Don't accept because Carl Jung is saying. Don't accept because some great professor is saying. What Newton said was not totally true. All Newton's discoveries, 90% of Newton's discoveries have been disproved. What Einstein said is not totally true. Heisenberg came and he has demolished some of the Einstein's observations and all that. Even today's quantum physics is open for new year discovery, and with all pride and conviction, I am saying It is only for the Indian boy that the opportunity to become the greatest scientist in the world lies, more than with any of the other counterparts of him. And that is the reason why in today's America, it is the Indian boys that are always getting the excellent ranks, excellent order of merits. Only about 6 months ago, one Indian gentleman, engineer, whose brother was studying under me in Gadag Ramakrishna Ashrama, had telephoned to me. He is in Charlotte, in North Carolina State, in United States. He is in the city of Charlotte. While talking to me over phone, he gave a very interesting information to me. The information was, White House has selected 10 most influential teenage students of America for training them specially for so many distinguished purposes and all that, distinguished positions and all that. 10 most influential teenage students of America have been called out. They have been selected. The most interesting part is that among the 10, 8 are Indian boys and Indian girls. The reason is, right from the Vedic period, we have been cherishing in us that excellent academic pursuit that can enable you to know 10 volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica, known to you almost by heart, that you could achieve just in a span of 1 month. It is this academic background Indian institutions must take serious note of and try to implement in their workaday life. A boy that is seeking education in Indian institution should count himself the most fortunate boy, a very lucky boy. If at all there is going to be a reality, if one day the world is able to see the best of the universities, the best of the academic institutions cropping up everywhere in the country, that should happen in India, because no other country has got so much of potentiality for developing the greatest and the most excellent educational institutions as the soil of India has got. Because here we don't emphasize upon the information. But of course, today's Indian education system has moved very afar from the basic, the fundamental Indian academic spirit. But if you are serious about implementing again that exalted spirit of academic excellence, once upon a time that constituted the fundamental core of Indian academic culture, if you are committed to that, and if you can do it, the world-class stalwarts, the most genius doctors, the best of the engineers, best of the managers of the world have to come from India only, just as it was the case till 500 years ago. Right from 500 BC or 1400 BC. Panini was living in 1400 BC and he was a professor in Takshashila, means Takshashila must be there from 1400 BC. From 1400 BC up to recently, up to the period of Guptas, for about 2000 years, not only India was the richest country in the world, it was richest, it was number one in every aspect of human glory. All this could be done because we were implementing the spirit of Upanishads. That means probing into the every phenomenon till we reach the deepest point of its cause. This is the fundamental attitude that one must have before one becomes an expert in any subject. So many phenomena are taking place. GDP is going down. Why? An economist should probe into the downslide of the GDP in such a way that he must be in a position to have a complete control upon the tendencies that GDP is showing from now onwards. GDP is shooting up. Why? What are the causes that make GDP shoot up? What are the causes that make GDP pull down? What are the causes that is making sun to rise? What are the causes that are making sun to set? What are the causes for the earthquake? The final information, the final knowledge about any such cause can come only after you have possessed, you have mastered the causes that are operating in the intellectual system of man, that are in fact studying all these external phenomena. Modern day West has been a portion to find out the causes behind every external phenomenon. But most important part of education is missing in their case. And what is that? What is the science and technology that can make the studying material itself, the human intellect, the most powerful instrument? Modern science, physics, or West, or America, or England, no country in this world knows the technique and the science whereby you can empower the entity that is studying all these things, that is human consciousness. They don't know the sense of how to empower the human consciousness or the human intellect or the human mind that is studying all these things. Unless you have a hold or a control on the human mind itself, how can you be sure that you are grasping everything that the mind is exposing itself to? It is India and India alone that has developed this science, the science of human excellence, which we call as yoga. Yoga is a science and technology whereby your intellect, your repository of all feelings, your emotions, your physical strength, your spiritual strength, intellectual strength, and emotional strength, everything will be lifted to a position beyond which there is no point of excellence at all. This zenith in English language, we call it as zenith. Yoga is a way of life. It is a discipline that enables you to make every faculty of you reach the zenith of you. And therefore, what you should be influenced by? Who should influence you? You need not be influenced by anyone. You have to be only be influenced by the wisdom that there is possibility in you for doing anything. There is potentiality in you for doing anything. You can be the master of the whole universe outside, and you can be the master of the whole universe inside. And beyond this, there is no any existence at all. There is no any creation at all. This is the aim, this is the goal that has been set forth before every student in Indian academic culture, as clearly mentioned in Mundaka Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad defines the goal of every Indian boy, every Indian student. What is that? Yo vai bhuma tat sukham na alpe sukhamasti. The fulfillment will come after the possession of the bhuma and not with the possession of anything that is less than that. Once you possess, you master that bhuma, you have all the fulfillment in your life. You have to possess the bhuma. And what is that bhuma? Anything that is beyond time, beyond space, and beyond causation, that is bhuma. Anything that is within the time, within the space, and within causation is alpa. So always try to catch hold of the bhuma, and the whole universe that is well within the space, time, and causation always will be yours. Nature external and nature internal. This is the goal of man in Indian philosophy of life. So universal, so open to all, so rational, and therefore so scientific. Because the philosophy of life we have been pursuing all along is a science and not religion in any narrow sense of the term, not in any religion as it is understood in the West. And therefore, Vivekananda explained all these things. Americans explained. They all exclaimed. Are we listening to any scientific discourse or any religious discourse? Because they wanted to have a religion that was full of science. Darwin's theory of evolution had totally demolished all conventional religious beliefs and all that. The whole West was no more interested in any sort of a religion. But Vivekananda expounded all these truths in America and England. The gathering that Vivekananda used to address used to be, to the major extent, composed always by university professors, scientists, and the intellectual class. No ordinary man would ever attend Vivekananda's lectures in America. There used to be a gathering of 3,000, 5,000, sometimes even 10,000. People, scientists, philosophers, professors from all corners of the country would come and they would assemble. Weeks before in Detroit, places like Detroit, weeks before they would come, they seek personal interviews with Vivekananda and all that, personal audience with Vivekananda and all that. When Vivekananda expounded all these things, one exclamation that was so common on the soil of America was, these were the truths we were seeking all these days. These were the truths we were seeking all these days. So therefore, dear students, remember, science, Life, culture, human excellence, they are not different fields. They are all one and the same. They are all one and the same. So we must study life in all its totality and not in a departmentalized portion of life. That is the blunder we are doing. And therefore, we are experts in software. We are failures in team spirit. We are the gold medalist in one faculty. We are utter failures in the other faculties. All these things are happening because we are compartmentalizing the knowledge itself. But the knowledge itself should not be compartmentalized. Knowledge must always be total. Our exposure, our understanding must always be total. When that is the thing, there is no scope for you to be influenced by anything. The human glory, it is self-evident. It is self-evident. It is by birth, it is your right, and you have to only undergo some discipline that enables you to manifest this glory as and when you want it, and in whatever degree that you want it. So this is the scope of the subject that today I have been asked to talk about. I have done my best, whatever little knowledge I had. I have openly and freely discussed before you all. I thank all the authorities here, Sri Kirtan Kumar, right from Sri Kirtan Kumar, CEO of this great and highly reputed institution in Bangalore, from Sri Kirtan Kumar ji, through the various faculty members up to Sri Girish, who is directly responsible for anything like this to happen. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And I also thank the student community who have given me all the spirit and all the inspiration to open up myself before you all, to share my thoughts with you all. And after all, I am a sannyasi, and the duty of a sannyasi is always to give whatever knowledge he has freely to the world outside, so that the humanity will be benefited. And it is totally and solely for the benefit of the humanity that one should put oneself into the discipline of sannyasa. So this is how Indian tradition has defined this profession, sannyas. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. Swamiji, after listening to you, you not only made us think, but literally, Swamiji, you boosted our inner capacity 100 times. That we can do it and nothing is impossible is what you literally boosted our energy, Swamiji. You just unleashed the power within us. We are really blessed to have you, Swamiji. For a moment, I thought the great Swami Vivekananda himself is talking to us. We are so grateful to you, Swamiji. Now I request Professor Shivkumar U. Ganachari to kindly present the presidential remarks and vote of thanks for the event.
Revered Saraswati-Swamiji, distinguished colleagues, it's really a great honor and privilege to share my perceptions on Uninfluenced Mind, a glorious life. Eliot reminds, in the middle, Swamiji quoted, one of the greatest 20th century scholar in British American literature. I quote one of the poems, that is Rock. Where is the knowledge we have lost in freedom? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? See, it indicates in the era of technology that has completely crushed us like anything in terms of developing human potentiality. And it also reminds me Dharmpal's beautiful tree, where he has aptly pointed out how British people have destroyed the roots of Indian education according to their whims and fancies. India has a wonderful history, India has a tremendous potentiality and energy where it always develops human emotions with strong, robust enthuse, and it also convinces individual potentiality like anything. It also, that gives a comprehensive observations that we should always have a choiceless awareness. When we have a choiceless awareness, that will always guide us to understand the human potentiality and the knowledge. See, India is the base for all, the developments in and around happening. At the same time, the Emerson reminds me in one of his quotes, I quote, that imitation is nothing but it is committing suicide. We need to develop knowledge because we have a potentiality, we have a knowledge, we have an energy. When we understand our energy and potentiality, automatically we'll become fearless. Fearless in what? Fearless in achieving the success. Vivekananda always sets an example to the generation to come. That's what, the uninfluenced, Swamiji said so aptly, you're not required to influence, but required to inspire, get inspiration. See, it's really, the great enlightenment that we have got through the depth and profundity that the Swamiji unfolded. He also stressed, each one is potential, each one is, the knowledgeable. We can achieve the thing, what we want. See, on behalf of Soundarya institutions, I express my deep sense of gratitude to the Swamiji for spending his invaluable time amongst us. Thank you very much, Swamiji.
Thank you.
I also thank our CEO for encouraging, constantly to hold this kind of a discussions and this kind of a developing inclination among students and teachers. See, for that, we are always grateful for his constant motivation and encouragement. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of this program. I also thank the senior professor Sigil sir, Somsekar sir, Professor Giri sir, and the Kausik sir, who has done wonderful the anchoring of the session. Thank you very much.
Prasad can stop. Swamiji, tumba dhanyawad.